Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marchetti again with another video. Obviously, you're looking at me. My plan, and I may have mentioned this in some of my intro videos, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. My plan was to try to have some weekly content where we talk about something that's actually tangible to the essays we're working on. Um, so I try to loop conversations and information and assignments into stuff that will help you with your essays. So that's what this is, sort of the first of our sort of conversations that sort of directly has to do with the essay. Um, we will have other ones about things like structure and formatting, and each essay will present different challenges and conversations we'll need to have. But for now, I wanted to have a brief conversation about sort of memory and about how we can access those memories, because the personal essay is so steeped in our personal stories, our memories, our thoughts, our you know judgments, our insecurities, whatever it is you're writing about. They come out when you're self-analyzing, and particularly in your writing, it can come out even more strongly as a result. Um, so yeah, we talked about, or Zinzer and some of our writings and readings. I'm sorry, some of our readings have talked about memoir. And I wanted to just make it clear that your personal essay is more a memoir, less an autobiography. An autobiography deals with dates and hard facts and things like that, whereas a memoir deals with memories. And it can be a little more loose and sort of free flowing and fluid with how we talk about those memories, meaning you don't have to move chronologically. You can sort of jump around in your memories. And I think that can be both daunting and fun for people. Sometimes we need to structure things, particularly with memories, because time is a structure, and we tend to like structure. But sometimes it's good to challenge ourselves and break from structure, and that's what this essay is an attempt to do, and among other things. Um, so we'll talk more explicitly next week about structuring the essay, like how it should look in one way. But what I basically said, and this is in the essay assignment itself and in my conversation about the essay, is that you really should be looking for about 3 to 4 moments. And you're going to talk about them at length, and you're going to analyze them at length, both about the content of what happened and then how sort of they made you feel, and maybe even more deeply about how you feel upon reflecting on them. So something that happened to you, you're 30, something that happened to you when you're 16. How does it feel? How did it feel at 16? But how does it now feel at 30? Because the feelings may be different. They may be the same. Both, I think, are interesting, though, to have in a conversation. So a couple quick things about how to access memory. Obviously, we access memories by thinking about moments, but sometimes that can be hard because memories can get hazy. And I think we need to learn sort of like coping strategies to remember things. And one way for me, well, a couple things. One way I relate to memories, both positive and negative, is through humor. Um, so under course content, you should now have access to a file called, should be under the Charlotte's Web close. No, it's under less, the less excerpt. The Memoirs of a 7-Year-Old, which I've already opened here. This is a short piece that I wrote years ago about myself, and it sort of is I think a good window into me as a person, but I think it's also just a funny story that actually is not funny when you actually read it. So I won't read it here because it's too long, I think, to read for a video, but please feel free to take a look at it and take a look about how I sort of frame things in the introduction about my past and about memory itself. And then the actual memory I'm talking about itself is this section here, how Back to the Future almost killed me and my brother. There were to be other ones, but I didn't write them, which is why it ends, why I'm afraid of drowning, or my sister may be a serial killer, which you'll see how humor sort of plays in, I hope, plays in or tries to play into my memories. So take a look at this, because this is definitely a way you can talk about memory, but this isn't really about accessing memories. These are memories I was able to access, and how I accessed them was I was trying to remember a period of time in my life when I was young. And we moved around a lot. My family moved around a ton. And my parents split up when I was 7. My brother went with my mother. I went with my father. My sisters went back to their fathers. My mother has married 5 times now, at least. So a very complicated family. And it was very difficult for me at 7. I was just old enough to really feel it. And I was trying to think in writing this piece years ago about this moment in my childhood. And I remembered my home, but it was not a perfect, like crystal clear memory. And I wanted to get a picture of it, literally, and see if I could access the memory that way. And I thought, how do I do that? Well, I thought, well, there's so much mapping technology and GPS technology nowadays that Google Earth. So Google Earth is a wonderful tool to use for a lot of things. And I find it particularly fun just to look at places and zoom in on them and sort of walk around them, I think it's just a lot of fun. But I think as a tool for this essay and accessing a memory of a place in particular, it's brilliant. I think it works brilliantly for this. And I think people usually have a lot of fun doing this. So we'll jump into it here. So if you go to Google Earth, or you type in Google Earth on Google, you would then click on it here, just to show people if they're not familiar with Google Earth. It's basically getting an extension of Google Maps. It's like Google Maps on steroids. So you go down here, launch Earth. At least this is how I access it. If you have another way to do it on your phone or whatever, totally fine. It tends to work really well on tablets and phones, but it should serve our purpose okay here. So it's going to load. It is sort of a large, unwieldy program. It has a lot of information. Oh, I'm back. Sorry, that froze for a second. I don't know what's happening. My computer's dealing with some things, and maybe it's not working. Oh, we're getting something. There it is. It is a pretty resource-heavy program, so if I'm cutting out a lot, I apologize. And the state of computers right now, the state of Google programs and things like Zoom are just chaos because everybody is using them. Teachers, or everyone's back to school, everyone's using them, and it's just bonkers right now, and everything is super slow as a result. Let me see if I can just go over. Okay, so if you go to the search, I've obviously searched for things recently. This is basically what I did when I was writing that memoir. I looked for street. I didn't remember the house number, my house I grew up in. But I remember looking up, I knew it was Brookfield Drive in Northford, Connecticut. And when you click on it, you will fly 1,000 miles an hour into the earth, which is always super satisfying. I very much apologize if my audio is cutting out and things like that, because I can see it's doing a lot of insane things over here. Okay, so here is Brookfield Drive, this road right here. I could not tell you exactly where I lived off the top of my head, but I knew it was towards the end of the road, and there was a main road at the end. So what I did was I found what I thought was the house I grew up in, and I sort of moved the map around with my mouse. I manipulate it that way, and then you can zoom in, which is where I'm clicking right now. And not a great view. Sometimes Google Maps gives you a lot of information depending on the area. So let's do this first. Let's leave them here. So this is the house I grew up in. It's obviously different now. This picture is from way more recent than 1988 or so, when 1989, probably around when we were leaving. When you read the memoirs of a 7-year-old story, this driveway is the driveway in question. I won't say more about it. I can remember the basic structure of the house, which looks about this. There was definitely like a swing set over here at one point. There was a pool here, which is where my sister attempted to drown me when I was being particularly naughty when her boyfriend was over. And what I find the most interesting is that this is obviously from when I was like, born to about 7 years old. I used to think this tree line was like endless. Like it went on and on and on, and I could just play in it for hours, and you couldn't see the house. You'd get like lost. It was so big. And I look at it now, and I'm sure some things have changed. And obviously, you see how it kind of expands back here, and it's big. It's not a ton of space. And it reminds me that when I was thinking about the scale of this, I was like 5 or 6 running around in the woods. So everything looks big. Everything looked big to me. And I think that's also a really interesting piece of, memory, or how memory works, how memory can be foggy, and it's okay. And I think it's important to remember that when you're writing this, if you're writing about a memory from when you were 7 years old, you might not have perfect access to it because you were 7. You might remember bits and pieces, and that's okay to write about them. That's acceptable in memoir because it doesn't need to be exact. It's more about the feel of a moment than it is about the accurate details. You may need to fill in information in this, and you may need to make up some things or guess at some things because you don't know. And that's totally okay in memoir. I just wanted to also kind of a last piece of information here, because I don't think this was available last time. There's this little man over here that you can click and hold on, and you like drag him around. It's very fun. And anywhere there's a blue line, it appears to be a blue line to me, but I'm colorblind, so it might be like pink. You can drop him on that, and you should get a street view. Again, I apologize for the speed. So this, I can't get on the main road, it would appear. But it appears I can see, Now, this was the house, but a lot of stuff has changed. It's definitely a lot bigger, or at least it might be. I have a hard time remembering exactly. But things have changed. The driveway has been leveled. It used to be slanted, which you'll see in the story. I don't think there was a garage door there, but there might have been. There's definitely like way more doors to get in. Honestly, the house originally was probably like this part and maybe a little bit of this, not this whole cape section, or maybe it was just this and this part was not there. Again, it's hard to remember, but still, I find this exercise to be really interesting because it allows you to see, in a way, allows you to see a little bit into the past. And I think that can be helpful when you're trying to think about the past. So your task is to write about memories from the past. They might not be a 36-year-old thinking about himself as a 7-year-old. It might be something that happened a year ago. So your access is going to be easier because you don't need to go back so far. But your access might be further back than you can remember comfortably. And something like Google Earth is, I think, a great tool for accessing those memories, particularly of a place. Obviously, you're not going to pull down actual memories on Google Earth and see like you running around your backyard. But seeing a place can help click something in your brain that then reminds you about it and then lets you sort of move into writing about it. This isn't going to help all of your woes with Essay 1, but I think it's a great tool to use for Essay 1. And at the very least, if you don't get anything out of this for Essay 1, Google Earth is just a fun tool to mess around with. And I think that you should try to play around with it because I think it can be very gratifying and just fun. So I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully it's not just me meandering, because I know it is a little bit, but I hope that this tool, Google Earth, is helpful. And I hope that you take a look at the memoirs of a 7-year-old briefly. I'm trying to click on it. And it's not going to open. It takes 7 hours to open. You know where it is. It's down here. I'm not going to, there it is, of course. Of course, after I say it, it's not going to pop up. Take a look at this for an example, too, of what memoir can sort of look like and how humor can be used if humor's your thing. If it's not, that's fine. Obviously, if anyone has any particular questions, just email me. Any specifics, any concerns, email me. This stuff might work for other people and might not work for you. So I just wanted to give you an option to make this work. Yeah, again, I hope this finds you well, and just be in contact with me about anything and everything. I will be around to help you guys. Okay, take it easy.